everybody, welcome. It's great to have you here. Thank you very much for your time. I'm really looking forward to this session because I'm with a very good friend of mine, Mike Wilkinson, who's an expert in value and value selling. So today, just to let you know, we're live on LinkedIn. We're also live on Facebook and over on YouTube. So no matter where you're joining us, thanks for being here, and I really appreciate your time. And I know both Mike and I are totally going to be focused on helping you as much as we can in the time we've got. We're going to go a little bit longer than I normally do and do about a 20-minute. It's not quite an interview. It's more of a chat, isn't it, Mike? We're sort of doing that between ourselves and hopefully giving you twice the value that we normally do. So welcome to the conversation, Mike. And do you want to just tell people briefly a little bit about you and what you do, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Steve. And thanks for inviting me. As Steve has said, my name is Mike Wilkinson. My business is Axia Value Solutions. And what we do is we help businesses identify and convert more opportunities more profitably by focusing on value and value selling. And I don't do anything else. That's all I do. My focus is 100% on understanding and communicating value more effectively. So there you go, Steve, in a nutshell. That's what I do.
That's brilliant. And for those who don't know me, because I know we've got a load of people here today, which is brilliant. Last time I looked, we got 91 people. So thank you, everybody, for being here. My background is a little bit like Mike in a way that I've been around a while. I've been doing this for 28 years, this being helping businesses with marketing mainly, but anything to do with growing a business. That's what I do. So I run a program called Results Mastery, which is a mentoring coaching program. And I also have a small team of people who help people physically to implement their marketing. So that's as a background. So let's kick off talking about value, because I always say to people, the value of something, Mike, it's all about perception, isn't it? Is it, is something worth it? Well, we don't really know. Is it down to the other person's perception about it, or how's it work?
I think it's about all of those things, actually, Steve. You're absolutely right. Value is about perception. And if I perceive something as being of value, then to me it is about value. Similarly, if we believe something is of great value and our customer doesn't, then that's it. So one of the exercises I often do with the groups that I work with is to get them to think about just what value is and to come up with a definition of value, because it's a word that is used by everybody all the time. And the assumption is that everybody understands what we're talking about. And the reality is anything but, because what you see as value and what I see as value could be two completely different things. So to cut a very long story short, as to how I arrived at this definition, it was at a conference in Copenhagen. I got a whole group of people to come up with their respective definitions. Out of all of them, we were going to distill a sort of a composite view, but we ended up with one. And one table group came up with a definition of value, which is value is a mystery. And that was it. And I thought, well, they're obviously taking something in Copenhagen to get them on that journey. But actually, the more you think about it, if you think about, for those of you who are watching, you think about your clients and your customers, unless you understand what value looks like from their point of view, then to all intents and purposes, value is a mystery. And that means that, particularly as sellers, our number one job is to solve the value mystery. And I think one of the biggest problems still is that salespeople have a habit of wanting to talk about their products rather than investing time in understanding their customers first. And that, for me, is one of the biggest problems they have.
Yeah. I suppose also it's about understanding the value that they want out of something. I'm thinking here mainly sort of on the B2B side, but I suppose, anything, if I go and buy a new washing machine, why would I pick one above the other? Because my perception is that it could be better value for money, or just better value, a better product, because I need it to be able to do X, Y, Z.
And that comes down to your price, your value perception. And my job is to understand what your perception is. So as the seller, instead of presenting you with 101 different washing machines, I should be spending time talking to you about exactly what it is you're looking for. So that when I do come to the point where I'm presenting my solution, it's very much more focused and much more targeted at what your requirements are. And I think very often, particularly when I talk to SMEs, they get very, very excited about what it is they do and what it is they sell. And that's what they want to talk about. When what they really should be understanding is what is the outcome your customer is looking for, number one, and then how can I help them to achieve it more effectively?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think, you know, my perception of it is that, you know, we tend to, I think, and I'm really interested in your opinion because obviously you're the expert in this, but I tend to see that people tend to sell based on their own perception of the value. So I might say, look, you know, this, you know, buy my phone because it, you know, it's got so much memory and it can do this and it can do that and it's better than the other one that you might want to buy, without based on what I think, the reason I want this phone, not the reason that you want the phone. Would that be the case, do you think, Mike?
I think that's the case, absolutely 100%. And for me, on everything that I do, my number one lesson to anybody who is looking at value is to recognize that value is defined by your customer, not by you. So it doesn't matter how wonderful you think your products are. If your customers don't see it that way, then they're not wonderful. And it doesn't matter what you say or do, you know, unless you understand what value looks like from your customer's perspective, then you're not going to win when it comes to getting the sale.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot here because we haven't agreed this at all, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I know with your experience, you'll be able to answer this really well. What are your top? I'm going to go top 3 tips for anybody listening today to make sure that they're communicating their value as well as possible.
Well, tip number 1 has to be, before you even begin to think about communicating your value, is understand what value looks like from your customer's perspective. And the key to that, I think, is understanding what they think it looks like and also focusing on what is the outcome they are looking to achieve. Because in B2B, almost always when we are providing something, it's to enable our customer to be able to do something else and to deliver more value to their end customers. So that would be my number 1 tip. In terms of the skills that you need to do that, and because I think that it's all very well saying to people, that's what you have to do. But most people will then say, well, how the hell do I do that? And the answer to that, I'm afraid, guys, is there are 3 things I think you really need to be able to do exceptionally well. 1, ask great questions. And in the work that I do, I take people on a questioning path. So I'm a great believer in process. If you understand the conversational process that you are going to have with your customer, it makes life much, much more simple, much easier. So ask great questions. For heaven's sake, listen to the answer. And I think this is something that is very difficult for people to do, especially those of us who are more excited about what we have. And we always want to say the next thing. So number 1, ask great questions. Number 2, listen to the answer. And number 3, summarize brilliantly. Because summarizing communicates to the customer that you have understood what they have said. And you ultimately then get buy-in from the customer that they now know that you know what it is that they're looking for. And as a result of that, their expectation is that what you are now going to show them is the solution that addresses their problem. And I think probably the 3rd tip, so that's a sort of a big tip in one. So understand the customer. Number 2, how do you do that? By questioning, listening, and summarizing. And the 3rd tip is just slow down. You know, the value discovery, the questioning bit is not an interrogation. It's a conversation. And I think that's the most important thing as well. You're having a chat with your customer to understand what's important for them. So slow down, take it easy. It's not a race. And I guarantee that if you invest time in understanding what your customers' requirements are, you will save a lot of time in terms of your overall sales cycle time.
No, that's brilliant. I particularly there took on board because I was thinking, yeah, you know, this is really important. The idea of producing a summary. I remember several times when I've bought something recently, I've bought from a particular supplier because I thought they've understood. They know what I'm looking for. And therefore, they're the, you know, all of the things were sort of similar. Shall I go with this software or that software? But the reason I went with the one that I went with was purely the salesperson I thought understood, so was able to advise me better and not focus on telling me a load of stuff that I didn't really need to know or use.
Absolutely.
You know?
Most products that people sell have a plethora of features and potential benefits, the vast majority of which are of absolutely no interest to me whatsoever. I want to know, will it do what I want done? That's it, simple. Which actually, in a roundabout sort of a way, when we've talked about value and value selling, and I think there are lots of things that people fail to understand the value of. I mean, for example, marketing is one thing. That I mean, that's certainly talking to some of the businesses that I work with, they simply do not appreciate the value of having a structured approach to their marketing.
No, you're absolutely right, Mike. You know, it's interesting people's attitude to marketing, isn't it? You know, we all know we're going through tough times right now, you know, with the economy and the war and coming out of COVID, and it's like one thing after another. And so you've got a group of people who are going, oh, things are terrible, let's cut back on marketing. And you've got another group of people who are going, oh, things are terrible, let's increase our marketing. And you know, if you look at what's the right way of doing it, it depends what you want, doesn't it? It comes back to the value of it. You know, if you're happy to shrink and you know, reduce your costs and hang on to your coattails hoping you can survive, then the answer is definitely cut back on your marketing and you know, hopefully survive. But if you're like me, and I know like you, still pushing forward because you know times are tough, that pie has shrank, then the thing to do is to increase the amount of marketing. I always think, you know, Mike, a lot of people talk about, you know, marketing as a cost, and people talk about sales as, you know, I don't want to be involved. I'm not a salesperson. I hear that a lot, even though we're all salespeople. But I like to call it these days lead generation and lead conversion, because that's really what it is. I know there's in marketing, there's branding and you know, design and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, why do you need
all of that is about generating leads.
Yeah, absolutely it is. You know, it's generating and then converting leads, and that's what, you know, people need to be good at. And I know with what you do and what I do, I'm more helping them generate the leads, and you're helping them to convert those leads into sales, which is ultimately the purpose of a business, is to make more sales, make more profit.
I mean, again, if you think people stop investing in marketing when times are tough, that they certainly stop investing in training their salespeople, or indeed training themselves to sell. But at the end of the day, no sales means no business. You have to be at the top of your game when it comes to your ability to sell effectively. And my guess is that there are lots and lots of people missing out on opportunities because they're simply not adopting an effective approach to the sales conversations that they have.
I totally agree. You know, I always remember going, it's a little while ago now, but I was up in Birmingham speaking at a conference. I had 1,000 business owners in the room. It was a big thing, and I was doing my 40 minutes in this day-long conference. And I got on the stage and I said, okay, tell me, hands up, who's responsible for sales in your business? And I got virtually 1,000 hands. I then said, okay, tell me, how many of you out there have done any form of sales training in the last year? And I got about 50 hands. And I said,
I know.
I can't believe. I mean, that is I think, unbelievable. You got 950 people who are all pretty much business owners, and they can't even be bothered, or they haven't got time, or whatever. They come up with a load of, BS excuses about why they've not trained their team. And
or indeed themselves. Or themselves.
Yeah.
And I mean, sales is the lifeblood of any business, whether it's a one-man business or a 20,000 people business. If you're not bringing in sales, you're dead. So it seems to me common sense to make sure that our sales skills are absolutely as good as they can be. But you're right, most people will never have been on a sales training program of any kind ever.
I agree. And if you've got problems in your business, you've got bookkeeping problems, accountancy problems, operational problems, any form of problems, if you've got enough sales, you can cope with it, can't you? You got accountancy problems, you can employ a full-time accountant because you've got enough money in your business to be able to sort the problem out, to throw enough time, effort, and money at it in order to sort it out. Whereas if you haven't, if you're struggling away, then it's a very sad fact that 8 out of 10 businesses that start go bust within 5 years. I know a lot of people on the call today are from bigger businesses, and I understand and respect that, but it's still a terrible statistic that I come across with businesses. So
I think one of the other problems is that people confuse sales with giving away big discounts. And if we go back to our original conversation around value, that's absolutely the worst thing of all that you can do. I can remember talking to a guy at a very, very big business, and he wanted more sales. And I said, is more sales actually what you're after? And he said, no. He said, I'm not actually just after more sales. I'm after better quality sales.
Right.
And the key thing for him was to stop discounting, because all you do when you discount is just give money away and end up having to work twice as hard to get to where you would have got to anyway.
Yeah, it ends up in their pocket instead of my bank, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it sets a very disappointing precedent as well.
Yeah.
And the problem is, Steve, that most salespeople go out, and the minute they get put under price pressure by a buyer, they have nowhere to go because they don't understand value. So they can't defend their prices.
No.
So the very first thing they do is to drop them.
Is to drop the price. Yeah. Which I know that's something you're very passionate about. We're coming towards the end of our time. If somebody wants your help, what's the best thing for them to do?
Probably, if you look at the bottom of the screen, my email address is there, mw@axiavalue.com, or go to my website, which is www.axiavalue.com, and there are links there to get in touch with me and put a date in my diary, which would be great. I'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic, thank you. And if anybody wants any help from me, same thing applies, but I've got my website there. So go to my website, you'll see some big gold buttons. Go and click on one of those and you can access my diary and book a time that's convenient to you. So it just remains for me to say thank you ever so much, Mike. Really appreciate your time. It was great to have you on the program, or the show, or the LinkedIn Live, call it what you will. And also a big thank you for everybody who stuck with us and hopefully benefited from it. If we can help you further, we'd both love to do so, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much for being here, and speak to you again in due course. Thank you.
Cheers. Goodbye. Bye-bye.